Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. And wow, it has been a long day, so I decided to cap it off by seeing a really long movie. Go figure. I know that technically it's still the spooky season, and I was actually wrestling with the idea of just recording this now and then scheduling it to come out in November. But you know what? Screw it. The movie came out like last Friday, so I might as well just release my thoughts on YouTube right now. I just got home from seeing Killers of the Flower Moon. I went to see it at an afternoon show, pretty much directly after work. Since I got work tomorrow morning. I'm probably gonna go to bed here really soon. And the movie is 3.5 hours long. So I decided that I was gonna see it as earliest as possible. And I already had a backup plan that if I couldn't get into the 1:30 show, then I'd see it at 3 o'clock show that was technically closer to my town, which I probably would have gotten out around the same time, technically. But I mean, the the theater that was closest to where I work was just like 15 minutes away. So I decided, screw it, I'll go there. Besides, it's a nice theater. The seats are great, and they actually serve you alcohol and food. Which this time around I only got some water and a burger. So, because the last time that I, and the last time I had a drink there, was when I saw Oppenheimer, and I actually had to get up and leave to go to the bathroom. Which I'm honestly surprised that I didn't have to get up and go to the bathroom for this one. But I did get a little bit drowsy, but that's completely my fault because, again, I went there directly from work, so I didn't exactly give myself any time to take a nap or anything. But that's enough rambling. Onto like the actual movie. The movie's great. I haven't seen every single Martin Scorsese film. I've seen Raging Bull and Taxi Driver and Goodfellas and Casino. If I remember correctly, The Wolf of Wall Street was also one of his. And and there isn't a single Martin and The Departed. I also saw The Departed. And so far from all the Scorsese movies that I've seen, not a single one of them has been bad. I mean, there's a few that I like less, which, this is my personal opinion, I don't really care that much for Raging Bull. Although, then again, that was also because I was kind of forced to see it because of a film class. So I didn't exactly watch it on my own time, really. But this one, I was really excited to see it. And I also saw The Irishman. But this film in particular, Flower Moon, this one I was really excited to see ever since it got announced. Because I used to give Martin Scorsese flack. I used to disagree with Scorsese when he said that Marvel movies aren't cinema and that cinema is dying, because at the time I felt that that was just the ramblings of a bitter old man who was most known for movies that came out in the 80s. And I'll admit, I'm gonna eat my words. He has a point, especially nowadays with all the new superhero movies. The new superhero movies that are coming out now. So he absolutely has a point with what he was saying. So I decided that I was going to see this movie because I thought it was going to be really refreshing from all the what people call superhero fatigue, right? And for the most part, I was blown away with how good this film was. There's only a couple things that I don't like. One of them, obviously, is the runtime, which I'll get into that soon. And then there's another that kind of goes hand in hand with the runtime. But before I get into that, the stuff that I did like was obviously Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro as pretty much the main characters. Um, I never read the book that this movie was based on, but from what I gather, the book was supposed to be sort of like mystery surrounding like the murders of the Osage tribe for like the oil on the land. But here, like, they pretty much just play it straightforward. Like, it basically from the first scene of Robert De Niro, like, they make it clear, like, what he wants, what his motives are, and like what he's gonna do to get it. Like, he pretty much states it plain and clear that like he's gonna take out like the members of the Osage tribe so that the oil money can go back to like him and the white people. Um, and like he even made it pretty clear to Leonardo DiCaprio that that he wanted him to like find an Indian woman to marry. Now later on, DiCaprio, who plays Ernest Burkhart, the nephew of Bill King Hale, he does end up marrying Lily Gladstone's character Molly. Even though like it was because he actually was in love with her, but um, but it still doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of the story because it was still part of Hale's plan anyway, that that he would marry an Indian woman and then all the Indians would get picked off so that the money that would be collected on their deaths will go to him, right? So it's pretty much a fairly straightforward story. Um, there's really not much that I can really say without spoiling anything, which I find a little bit odd because like the plot was basically spelled out in the trailer, so there's not too much to spoil, except for like towards the end, I suppose. So going into the mechanics, like the camera shots are great, the lighting is really good. The acting is top notch for DiCaprio and De Niro and Lily Gladstone. DiCaprio in particular, like, I feel like this movie like really showed off his range, like more so than movies like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood or The Wolf of Wall Street, where the times where like he's angry or depressed or like just devastated when he finds out that a close relative is dead. Like all of his emotions just feel so raw and genuine in those moments. And like on the flip side with De Niro, like out of all the movies, especially the Scorsese movies that I've seen him in, I think this is like I think that the sort of fictional version of Bill Hale that he plays is probably one of the most evil pieces of scum that I've seen him play in like all of his movies, and like because he plays like this sweet, caring, like charismatic, like grandfather like figure for some scenes, especially with his nephew Ernest, and with like the Osage tribe, like pretending to be their friend, and then literally like in the next scene, like he's plotting and scheming on the different ways to kill the members of the tribe leaders. Like then there's two scenes that especially stuck out for me. Like one of them is where he's mad that Ernest like screwed up this this plan where he ended up accidentally getting a guy like arrested, and because of that, Hale takes him to this like Freemasons Masonic temple, and he actually starts beating him. And I think that I think that that scene alone to me was like the most intimidating that Robert De Niro was in this film. And then on the other kind of flip side, like I can't remember if this is shortly after or before, but there's this one scene where De Niro is talking with his neighbor who is Indian, and he more or less basically says to his face that he's gonna get him killed, and like he says it with such confidence, and to the point where like the other two white people who are in on it with him that are in the room, they actually look at Robert De Niro like with shocked expressions, and I'm not even sure if you can call it like a blink and you miss it moment because it's like about a second and the camera's obviously on them, but like he basically straight up says so one of the guys makes a joke about like Hale trying to kill his neighbor. And again, the neighbor's like right in front of him, and Hale just replies with, "Oh, how do you know?" And the other two guys who are like in on the plot, like just stop dead in their tracks and look at him with like wide eyes. And then literally an instant later, like Robert De Niro just plays it off as a joke. And then in the very next scene, he's plotting with those same guys about killing his neighbor. Like that's, I think that's someone. I think that's like phenomenal acting, and I personally don't think that if it was I don't think most actors could seriously pull that off to basically tell a guy to their face, "Yeah, I'm gonna kill you," and then be able to pull that back and say like, "Oh, I'm just kidding." And then immediately in the next scene talk about actually killing him. But maybe that's just me. Um, the music is fantastic. Like the blend of like Indian tribal music with drums is great, and a lot of like almost sort of Western music is pretty cool too, since the movie does take place in Oklahoma. Like the murders did take place in Oklahoma. Um, and this is also, I mean, these next two things are really small, but like, I don't think I say this a lot in these reviews, but I also kind of liked how the makeup was done in this film, where like at one point, Ernest's wife Molly, she gets sick, and Robert De Niro like plots to slowly poison her and kill her, and basically from that point on to almost the end of the film, like the way they make her look, where like she looks like she's at death's door. I thought that looked great, and I'm like I said, I'm pretty sure that's a thing with the makeup. Um, and just the way that they made Lily Gladstone look as she's basically on her deathbed, just looked really, I guess you could say, haunting. And speaking of that, the effects were also great. Like, uh, I don't think there was too much gore in this film. I mean, there definitely was some, enough to warrant an R rating, because like there were people getting blown up. Uh, but the effects done on that were really great. There were one or two scenes about like an owl visiting these Native Americans who were dying, and I'm pretty sure that's one of the only moments that had CGI in it, especially the second time that the owl shows up and it's literally walking along the floor. I'm pretty sure that was CGI. And that's the only, and if it was, I'm sorry, but it was obvious. If I'm wrong though, then I'll take that back. And then the other really small thing that I liked was how the film ended, um, where if anyone remembers like biopics or like biographical dramas, where the movie like fades to black and then it shows like these pictures of the actual people along with some text that's being narrated to tell like whatever happened to like these historical figures after the events of the film, or even in Goodfellas, where the ending of the three main characters are narrated to you, mostly by Ray Liotta. This movie, this movie kind of does that too, but like in a different and kind of unique way, where that's kind of fitting for the era that this movie takes place in, and I really liked that. The only two things that I'm really gonna say negatively about this film is one, obviously the runtime. I mean, the film is 3.5 hours long. Like that is the longest movie that's the longest movie that I've ever seen in a movie theater. Like, and I think that does warrant the complaint that a lot of people have had about movies getting longer these days. Like, the Batman last year was almost 3 hours. John Wick 4 was almost 3 hours. Oppenheimer was 3 hours. And it just seems like a lot of movies these days just get longer and longer, right? I mean, even the superhero movies that Martin Scorsese despises, like Avengers Endgame and Spider-Man No Way Home, they were nearly 3 hours long. So I do think that a lot of those complaints are valid, and a lot of people's responses are like, well, you'll watch like 6 or 7 hours of a TV show, or you'll binge watch an entire season of Game of Thrones. I mean, yeah, but like, you're watching it at home on a comfy couch or your bed or whatever, or wherever your TV is, and you can pause it whenever you want. Like, I'm currently watching the morning show on Apple TV, where each episode is like 50 minutes, sometimes a little bit over an hour long, and I can pause it whenever I want, go to the bathroom, get some snacks, get a drink, and just resume playing as if nothing ever happened. You can't do that in a movie theater. And to make matters worse, they don't have those intermission breaks like they did for movies like The Sound of Music back then. So you kind of got to hold it, which I can't remember if I mentioned this earlier in this review, but like I'm surprised that I didn't have to go to the bathroom, because like I had a pretty tall drink of water, and not once did I have to go up. So, which is weird, because I did have to go to the bathroom when I saw Oppenheimer. But going back to the whole Apple Films, I think I might have. I think that actually kind of answers the whole question on this being so long. So when I when I walked into this movie, and I sat through the previews and all that. Eventually, when the movie did start, like, they opened up with the logos, and one of those logos was an Apple original film, which I know that they said that in the trailer too. And if I remember correctly, back when I first saw that trailer, I was originally kind of thinking like, oh, so we can just watch this when it streams. And then eventually I found out that the movie was going to be in theaters. And personally, I have a theory that this was originally gonna be a movie meant for streaming because it's an Apple original film. Like it's the only one that I have ever seen be put in a theater, and I think it was done in the same way that that The Irishman was a Netflix original, and that one also went to theaters, right? So I think that either a this was a movie meant for streaming, just like with the Snyder Cut of Justice League. That one was 4 hours long, got put on HBO Max for a reason. There's a reason they didn't put it in theaters. Or the other route, that originally this movie was meant to be broken up as like a 4-part miniseries. And the reason why I say that is because if you go on Netflix and you look up a movie like The Hateful Eight, you can find the extended cut of it, and that is broken up into 4 different segments. Each episode is about 50 minutes long. You add all those up, that's about 200 minutes, give or take, which is about 3 hours, 20 minutes, which is almost exactly the length of Killers of the Flower Moon. So, ergo, either this movie was meant to be specifically for streaming, where you could pause it whenever you wanted, or it was meant to be a 4-part miniseries like the extended version of The Hateful Eight. But that's just my speculation. So, technically, the complaints about the movie being way too long is completely valid. But that's just my 2 cents on why it's so long. Moving on to the next negative that I have is, I'm not gonna lie, I felt the pacing was off a little bit. Like, towards the beginning, when Leonardo DiCaprio, Ernest, falls in love with Molly, they show like 1 or 2 scenes of, or at least this was the way that I saw it. If there were more moments between them, then I apologize. I was tired. I still am tired. But the way that they had Ernest and Molly meet, I feel like it was rushed. And again, I could be wrong on this because of how drowsy I am. But the way that I remembered it when I was in the theater was that Ernest gives Molly 1 cab ride, and then there's like a couple more moments between the two, and like they're really small moments, and maybe that was enough. But then they kind of jump from that to them getting married, and I feel like that could have been lengthened out a little bit more. Like I said, that's just how I kind of remember it. And then on the flip side, towards the end, when the Bureau of Investigations actually kind of show up and start arresting all these people like Ernest, King Hale, and all these other guys who were in on the conspiracy to like basically massacre the Osage tribe. And like they're having them all testify, going to court and everything, showing the moments in the jail. I feel like that went on for way too long. Like the whole, especially with DiCaprio's character, like just flip-flopping between sides. And I feel like that entire segment probably could have been shortened down a bit. But that's just me. Again, that's the way I remember it. Maybe sometime I'll rewatch it, especially when I'm less tired. But overall, it didn't kill my experience for the film, because like this is one of my favorite Scorsese films. I mean, obviously, I'm gonna like movies like Goodfellas better than this, because like that one just holds a special spot to me. But that doesn't take away from the fact that this was an amazing film. I'm glad I saw it. Like I said, I know it's still the Halloween season. Like we're literally a week away from Halloween. That's why I scheduled my Halloween 3 review for tonight. As well as I'm also going to be eventually doing a review of season 1 of the first part of season 3 of Chucky, in addition to my community posts that I've done. But with all that said, like, definitely go see this film, especially if like you're a huge Scorsese fan. Like, you're not gonna be disappointed. And on that note, I'm gonna get some sleep. So good night, everyone.